Another rundown, another extension. And you all know what that means. Yep, my upload schedule decides to take a U-turn on me and I end up going back to the A tier even though I'm already somewhere in the C tier videos. So here we are with the R5A3 guide for all of you beautiful people. Also, with a new major update, we tend to see an influx of newer players. So if this is your first time on the channel, welcome. I hope you enjoy your stay. I'd give you a more proper introduction, but you probably came here for a level guide, so let's cut the formalities for now and hop right into the guide itself and start talking about everything you need to know to beat R5A3. Alright, hopping right into it and starting off as we always do with my recommended loadout. For this level, I would recommend taking a biotracker, a mine deployer, a C-foam launcher, and any sentry of your choice. I like taking the biotracker since this level does have quite a bit of infectious fog, it has some very dark zones, it has an error alarm that's part of the extreme objective, there are a decent amount of scouts, just a few different situations where I like taking a biotracker. The mine deployer, you've got alarm doors, you got doors that you could shut, put one and one together and you get a beautiful explosion. Really no reason to not take this. The C-foam launcher, I like taking it for this level because there are quite a few situations where you're going to be doing like class 4, class 5 alarm doors, but there's only going to be really one entrance to the room that they will be taking or that they can even take. So being able to just C-foam that door once, twice, maybe even 3 times and make it very easy, just focus on the scans and then let 1 or 2 mines blow up pretty much every single enemy once the scans are finished, makes it a lot safer and lowers the fatality rate of a lot of these scans. And then finally, when it comes to the sentry, take whatever you feel like using. If you want something to stagger, take an auto sentry. If you want something that has a high rate of fire, take burst. If you just want something that's heavy hitting, sniper. It's up to you. Just make sure that whatever sentry you are taking, you know how to use it according to its strengths and you're not putting it in a position where it's not really performing as well as it could. Now, this is an A tier level, so you could definitely swap any of these things out that I recommended for something else, especially if you're just going for the main objective, then it really doesn't matter what you take. So if you want to swap something out for something else just because you feel like it would be more beneficial for your playstyle, go on ahead, really won't make a huge difference in the end. Dropping down to the level, you'll see that your main objective is to download the files from all the terminals located inside Zone 39. This is a brand new level objective, although it's nothing too complicated or difficult, just requires a little bit of terminal work and some exploration. These terminals are in Zone 39 and you start off inside Zone 38, of which doesn't really have much in there. There are some enemies, some boxes and lockers, but overall nothing I really need to take note of. At the end of it, you'll find security door Zone 39, which is just going to be a full team scan. Inside 39, you'll find the 3 terminals that you need as well as 3 security doors. When it comes to the terminals, the right one you have access to, but the left one and the middle one are currently password locked. If you try to get into them, it'll just tell you to go find the password from specific terminals, and then come back when you have those passwords. If you try to type in commands or anything else, it will not work. The terminal on the left will require you to find a password on a terminal located somewhere inside Zone 40, and the one in the middle will require you to find 2 terminals both located inside Zone 43. The one on the right though, is free access. You can open it up, type in commands to it, as well as the command you need to extract all the files. So you might as well go ahead and do that right now. But with that done, there's nothing else for you to really do inside of this room. The security door to the north is currently under lockdown. It will not be lifted until you complete the main objective. And the door to the right is a bulkhead door to the overload objective, and you don't have a bulkhead key yet. So your only option is to head to the west and go through the security door to Zone 40, which is just going to be a full team scan. Inside of Zone 40, you'll find quite a few terminals, one of which will have the password that you need to unlock one of the terminals back to Zone 39. To figure out which one it is, just simply type in logs, and then when you see one of them have a log that has the name key something in it, just type read, the name of that log, and then you'll get the password in there. The password should be a 4-letter word. Once you have it, you could send one person back into 39, they could put that into the terminal on the left and unlock it. Then they can extract the files from there, and you'll complete 2/3 of your main objective. Then you can head back into Zone 40 and continue clearing out enemies. Inside Zone 40 as well, you'll find your very first bulkhead key, which you will be using this for the overload objective, assuming you're going for prisoner efficiency. But there's a little bit more of the main objective we could do first, so let's continue on to the west. At the far western side of it, you'll find a security door that leads you to Zone 41, and this is a Class 3 cluster alarm. So let's look at a map overlay for it. There's only one location that enemies can spawn at, and there are 2 doors that lead into your room. However, as long as both of them are kept shut, they will always take the southern door to get into your room. So I recommend you just place a mine on it, and then C-foam it once in, you should be good. No sentry really needed. By the time you finish most of the scans, the enemies should finally have broken in, the mine will deal with a lot of the initial ones. You just shoot and kill the rest of them, finish the last of the scans, and you're good to go. You can head on into Zone 41. Inside of here, you'll find a generator and a security door to Zone 42. However, you have no access to it because you need to get a power cell for that generator first. And you'll also find the bulkhead door control and the bulkhead doors to your high and extreme objective. If you are just doing the main objective, you will be putting your bulkhead key into this door control and selecting your main objective. That way you unlock the bulkhead door to Zone 43. However, I need to talk about the overload and the extreme objective first for people who are going for prisoner efficiency. So jump to the timestamp that you see on screen if you only care about listening to the main objective portion of this guide. Everybody else, meet me back in Zone 39 and meet me by the overload bulkhead door, and we'll continue talking about the rest of the level from there. When it comes to this level, if you're going for prisoner efficiency, you can do overload or extreme first and then the other one second. You just have to make sure you do those 2 first before the high bulkhead door. However, I highly recommend you do overload before extreme, as at some point in extreme you will have to initiate an error alarm that will stick around for the rest of the level. But overload, all that's going to do is make some infectious fog rise up in the level a bit, but it only affects the overload sector itself as well as the main central hub room inside of Zone 39. So it really doesn't have that much impact on the level, so much easier to just do overload and get that out of the way first. As for going into it, the bulkhead door to Zone 231 is just an open bulkhead door once you have taken care of the door control scan, so you can head right on in. In there you'll find some resources, some enemies, as well as a generator cluster. Your overload objective is going to be finding 3 power cells and bringing them to the generator cluster to power back up. And these 3 power cells will always be located inside of Zone 235. So you have a little bit of distance you have to travel to go get them. Inside Zone 231 as well, you will find a fog turbine, and you're going to need this, or you're going to need to bring this along with you, as most of the overload sector is covered in infectious fog. This first room is fine, but everything after it will have quite a bit of it in there, so make sure you look around and grab the fog turbine. Once you're ready to go, head to the eastern side of this zone. You'll find security door Zone 232. This is just a full team scan. Do the scan, and you can head right on in. Inside of Zone 232, you'll find a bit of infectious fog, quite a few enemies, a decent amount of scouts as well to go with them, as well as cocoons all over the ceiling, which should indicate to you that this is a respawn zone. So a lot of the enemies that you kill will come back once you have left the zone and gone 2 rooms away from it. Minus the scouts. The scouts will never come back, so I would definitely recommend you take care of them so you don't even have to worry about them potentially getting set off later. You'll find a security door that leads you to Zone 233 and 234, or you'll find a security door for each of them, my apologies. However, the security door to Zone 233 is currently under lockdown and will not be lifted until you put all 3 power cells into the generator cluster. So the only way to go is Zone 234, which is just a full team scan, another one. So hey, no alarm door, pretty easy. Zone 234 itself really has nothing to note, nothing to talk about, just more resources, enemies, and fog. It is not a respawn zone though, so feel free to kill all the enemies off in here. You'll be safe, they won't come back. At the very end of it, you'll find a security door to Zone 235. However, this is going to be an alarm door. This is going to be a Class 5 alarm door, so let's look at a map overlay. As you can see, there's only one door that leads into this room, and because this is a Class 5 alarm, and because this room does have a fair amount of infectious fog in it, I would highly recommend you place a mine on the door, you C-foam the door, you go over, you do the full team scan, and then the person with the C-foam launcher run back to the door, hop up onto the barrels and shelves that are nearby, that way you're above the infectious fog, you don't gain any infection, and just keep the door C-foamed. The other 3 people can focus on dealing with the scans and getting that completed. C-foam person, just keep that door shut and don't let those enemies come in. Once all the scans are finished, you can let the door break open. The mine will deal with a pretty decent amount of them. The rest of you, or you could just finish off the rest of the enemies. And once everything is dead, you can head into Zone 235 to start looking for your power cells. There's quite a few rooms inside Zone 235, but overall not a whole lot that I really need to talk about. You got some enemies, you got some scouts, you got some resources. Really, the only thing that you're specifically looking for are the 3 power cells that will be located throughout the zone. There is a terminal so far into it, so you can use that to find them in case you're having trouble. But once you find all 3 power cells, you can leave. Everybody grab one person's holding the fog turbine, and just head all the way back into Zone 230 or 231. However, do keep in mind 232 is a respawn zone, so don't just sort of, I'd say run, but you're all carrying something, so you can't run. So don't walk back through there with no regards to enemies and where they might be, because there might be a few of them on the path back. But once you get into zone 231, you can put all 3 power cells into the generators. For once in the history of generator clusters, this one has no alarm, no scans, nothing. You put them in, the lights are going to go off just like they normally do, but they'll come back on and everything's good. The only thing that changes is the infectious fog, as the levels are going to rise a bit, but again, they're only going to affect the overload sector, minus the room you're in, and they'll affect the main central hub area in zone 39, but that's about it. The security door to zone 233 though also is now unlocked, which means you can go in there, and that's where you're going to find your second bulkhead key, as well as a power cell that I highly recommend you grab and take with you. However, before you start heading to zone 233, there's something that you should keep an eye out, or something you should be aware of at least. And that's the fact that you might be unfortunately in a glitch state. The last time I played this level, which was actually just about a day or two ago from when I actually sat down and recorded this voiceover, there was a glitch that was going on in this level. A glitch that affects pretty much every single team who goes through it. That glitch being that when you do put the cells in and it updates the level, the fog turbine sometimes doesn't work for anybody else except for the host. This means that even if you're in the radius of the fog turbine, if you're in the infectious fog, you will gain infection. Now, they might patch this by the time you're watching this video, or maybe it just doesn't happen to you and your team is okay. But if this is the case and you find yourself still getting infection, even when you're in the fog turbine radius, you want to be a little bit cautious. Thankfully, there is a disinfect station inside zone 42, which you will have access to once you get the power cell from 233, but even then, you might die along the way. If you want to be really safe, then you can either send 1 or 2 people into zone 233, one being the host and the other person being there. That way, host carries the fog turbine, you go in, you grab the bulkhead key, you grab the power cell, and then you leave. All 4 of you can go in. It's really up to you. There is a disinfect station, like I said, there are some disinfected packs. So as long as you don't really care about being capped out at 1% and eventually 15% HP for a while, it's not that big of a deal. The security door to zone 233 will just open up when you get to it. You just open it, no full team scan or anything, so you can just send 1 or 2 people in. But there are quite a few enemies in there, so if you don't send the entire team, or if you do and everybody's at 1% HP but the host, do be careful. It's an annoying bug, but hopefully by this point it's been fixed and you don't have to worry about it. Once you have the second bulkhead key, though, and the power cell, you can leave, head back to zone 239, go across and start moving your way towards zone 40. I recommend you leave the fog turbine in zone 39, as you do not need this anywhere else. And you can make your way towards the security door to zone 42. With your extra cell put into the generator, you now have access to zone 42 and you can head into there. Well, you can anyway after you finish the class 3 alarm that is tied to the security door. You don't have to go in here, by the way, by any means. This is purely an optional zone. It will have a fair amount of resources in there, and it will have a disinfect station that you can use to get rid of all of your infection, which if you did get the glitch earlier and your team does have a lot of infection, I would highly recommend it. However, it isn't completely necessary to beat this level, so if you want to skip it, you can go on ahead. However, if you do want to go in there, you're going to have to deal with that alarm. So let's look at a map overlay for it. As you can see, there are 3 different locations that enemies could spawn in, and every single one of these locations have their own specific door that they could take to get into you. So for example, if they come from the east, they're obviously going to take the eastern door, north, the northern door, the west, western door. Pretty simple. And since this is only a class 3 alarm, usually only 1 or 2 waves of enemies are going to spawn in. So as long as all the doors are still preserved, I would recommend you just shut all 3 of them, place a mine on all 3, and then do the full team scan, and then you can either have the biotracker person ping what direction they're coming from, and the seafoam launcher could go over and seafoam that door, or you could just not care. Let the enemies just break it down, shoot and kill a few of them while you focus on the scans, and you should have no problem. It's up to you. You could seafoam the door once to just buy yourself more time if you really need to. It's up to your team and how confident, how good you all are at the game. If you're new and you haven't played as much, probably seafoam it just to be safe. Once all the scans are done and all the enemies are dead though, you can head to zone 42. It's just a single room. There's a lot of resources in there. I don't believe enemies can ever spawn in there. Disinfected pack will be at the very back corner. Use it to get rid of all of your infection for free. And then just start looting up. Stockpile, refill everybody as much as you can without being wasteful. And once you're good and ready to go, you can head back to the bulkhead door control inside zone 41 and get started on your extreme objective. The bulkhead door to zone 122 is just an open bulkhead door, just like the overload one, so no alarm tied to it. Inside, you'll see that your extreme objective is to collect a DNA sample from a specific HSU, and this HSU will always be located inside zone 124. Zone 122 itself, though, nothing to really take note of. There's not a whole lot in here. It's just resources and enemies, just like pretty much anywhere else in the level. But the security door to zone 123 at the end of it is a little bit of a different story. This is going to be another alarm, specifically a class 5 alarm door. As you can see with the map overlay, there's only one entrance to the room, so as long as that door doesn't get broken down, this is pretty smooth sailing. I would recommend place a mine on the door, C-foam it, then all 4 people can go over, do the full team scan, and then the person with the C-foam launcher just rush back to that door as fast as you can. I'm pretty sure you can make it back in time before they break it down. You might be cutting it a little bit close, but you should be able to make it before it completely breaks. Just keep on C-foaming it, keep it barricaded, and everybody else on your team just focuses on the scans. Once they're done and all the scans are finished, let the door break open. Since it is a large door, a lot of them are going to be right in perfect position for that mine, so that mine might take out the entire wave with it, or just have a few enemies left over, which really shouldn't be that hard to deal. Once they're all dead, you can head into zone 123. 123 is pretty similar to 122, not a whole lot I have to mention. Really the only major thing is that a decent amount of the enemies inside the zone are going to be giant strikers, so do be cautious as they will hit a bit harder than their regular striker counterpart. At the very end of it, you'll finally find the security door to zone 124. However, this one has an alarm on it. No, not another class alarm, rather an error alarm. This error alarm will spawn in a combination of 3 regular strikers and shooters roughly every 50 seconds, which isn't too bad to deal with. You can very easily melee kill these error alarm enemies and preserve pretty much all of your ammunition and really not even have to lose any health to them as long as you're good at rushing enemies and melee killing them as they're coming after you. If you want to shoot them a little bit though, feel free, go on ahead. Again, it's all about your skill level and how good you are at the game. Once you're ready to go though, do the full team scan to the security door at 124, initiate that error alarm, and now it's time for you to get a move on. Now, while I said the error alarm enemies themselves won't be that hard to deal with, zone 124 itself is a little bit of a different story. There's a decent amount of rooms in here, and these rooms can have a lot, and I mean a lot of enemies in them. And you can get very unfortunate and pretty much have all the enemies spawn in just 1 or 2 rooms, making it even deadlier, especially if these error alarm enemies spawn in that room and wake everything up. So make sure you're keeping an eye on that bio tracker. If things go really poorly and all these enemies wake up, take advantage of the doors in this zone. Fall back, shut a door, mine it, maybe C-foam it a little bit, that way more enemies can barricade up or can pile up on it. That way the mine deals with more enemies. And just make sure you're staying grouped and you're not splitting up way too much. That way also that the error alarm wave doesn't spawn on top of you because you're so spread out from each other. The terminal is pretty early on in the zone, so go up to it, use it to ping where the exact location of your HSU is. Once you know where it is and you found it, do the full team scan. This scan will not initiate an alarm or anything else like that. You'll just have the error alarm enemies coming after you. And once the scan is finished, you've completed the extreme objective. It'll tell you to go back to the main objective and finish that. However, before you leave, make sure you grab the bulkhead key that is located inside zone 124 somewhere. Once you have the scan finished and you have that bulkhead key, start running back as fast as you can. Melee bonk the enemies on the way out and just get a move on all the way back to zone 41. Put the bulkhead key into the door control and then select your high objective and you'll have access to the bulkhead door to zone 43. This bulkhead door has a class 5 diminished alarm tied to it. What is a diminished alarm? Well, it's basically an easier version of the alarms you've been doing up to this point. Diminished just means that there'll be fewer enemies per waves, and I think maybe the waves spawn a little bit slower, although I'm not completely sure on that one. I think it's just fewer enemies in the waves. So instead of maybe 12, 13, or 14 enemies per wave, you'll have maybe 5, 6, or 7, so quite a few less, making it very easy to deal with them and not get overwhelmed by a sheer horde of enemies coming after you. As for the alarm itself, as you can see, there's 3 doors that connect to your room. However, most of the time, enemies are going to take this one right here, assuming everything is kept shut. So this door, mine it, C-foam it. If you want, you can have a sentry on the inside or the outside of it, depending on what type of sentry you brought. And you can just focus on the scans. Enemies also can take this door right here. There is a chance for it, and this door is very close to where you will be doing the scans. So if you notice that they're going for it, I would highly recommend C-foam it and place a mine on it very quickly while you're doing the scans. And especially keep that door C-foamed until you finish the scans. Once the scans are done though, and all the enemies are dead, you can head to Zone 43 and start looking for the 2 terminals that you need. Zone 43 is going to have a scout in it, quite a few giant strikers and giant shooters, and it's also going to have a total of 4 terminals in there, and you only need 2 of them to get your password. Now, if you are going for prisoner efficiency and not just the main objective, you have the air alarm enemies that are still spawning in. And I would recommend go throughout these multiple rooms. A lot of them are very small and directly connected to each other. Go through, try to kill that scout as fast as you can, that way there's no risk of it getting set off. And then if you do come across giant strikers and giant shooters, go on ahead, just shoot and kill them. You can try to go for melee kills if you're confident in it, but you really don't want to be wasting too much time in here. Try to stay close to each other as well. You could spread out a little bit to cover more ground, but make sure you're in a position where if your teammates need help because the wave spawned on them, or maybe a room of 4 giant strikers woke up, you can quickly go over there and assist them before they die, and that way people aren't dropping like flies left and right and you're the last one standing. But go through, kill enemies, collect resources, find the terminals that you need. It is split between 2 different terminals. It is going to be a 4-letter word. So for example, let's say the password is blur, B-L-U-R. One terminal is going to have BL --, and the other terminal is going to have --UR. So find the terminals, find the logs, read them, get both parts of the code you need. Once you know what your password is, you can start running all the way back to Zone 39, pick up that fog turbine that you left behind since the central area is covered in fog, go up to the middle terminal, put your password in, extract the files you need to finish your objective, and once you've done that, your objective will update. It'll tell you to head into Zone 44 where the extraction scan is. That's the big Warden door that's directly north of you, which is now unlocked. So head up to it. You'll see that the alarm is going to be a Class S1 diminished alarm, so a minute 40 sustained scan that will spawn in fewer enemies, thankfully. When it comes to this alarm, enemies can come from all 3 directions, so from the east, south, west. They won't come from the east, obviously, if you're just in the main objective since you haven't opened that up. But even then, it's not too hard. There are doors really far out there that you can shut, but since there aren't that many enemies that spawn per wave, and you're going to be here for a minute and 40 seconds approximately, you really don't need to shut doors to buy yourself time because they're going to get to you anyway. In all honesty, it's probably better to just leave them open so they come to you in smaller groups. If you have mines, place them along the bridges, that way it blows up enemies when they come across. If you have C-foam left, spray it all over the floor at the top of the staircase. That way when enemies come up, they get C-foamed and you can shoot them and kill them without them fighting back. And if you have a sentry, just place it wherever you feel like. Just make sure it's in a position where it can see and shoot enemies pretty much no matter what, or at least when they come to you. You can put it in front of you like my team did in the background footage as you see, or maybe put it at the top of the staircase. It really depends on the type of sentry and just how you want to do it. You're going to be holding out here for a little bit, but once you finish the sustain scan, the door is unlocked. Go over to it, open it up. It's going to take a little bit for it to fully open, but once it's done, run on in. If you're just doing the main objective, no more enemies will come after you. If you did over or extreme, you will have the air alarm enemies still coming after you, but they're really no threat. This extraction scan finishes incredibly quickly. I'm talking probably like 10 seconds, if even that. So once you hop on it, you're good. Even if you have a wave of 20 enemies coming after you, you should have no problem with it. Once you get the scan up to 100%, you are done and out of that level, and you've beaten R5A3. And that's all there is to it. As always, if you have any tips or tricks for this level that you want to share, any questions for me, or just have something in general that you want to say, leave it down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video and found it useful, then consider hitting that like button. It helps out the channel and it helps these videos get noticed by people who really need them. And while you're down there, you might as well hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to get notified whenever I post a new video. It's free, you can always undo it later if you feel like it, so what are you waiting for? Go on ahead and hit it. I also have my own Discord server, so if you want to become part of the community I'm building, then hop on in. There you can chat with me whenever you feel like, ask me questions, just hang out with other people who enjoy my content and GTFO in general, and who knows, maybe you might get the chance to play with me. I like to hang out with my viewers, so I always look for people to play with there every once in a while when I rarely have the free time to do so. So hop on in. Link is down in the description. Until next time, have fun with the extension levels. There's a lot of hidden lore stored away in it. I know I'm still looking for it, so you should be too. And I'll see you all in the next video.